Beef history of Indian early medieval period. C. 650 to 1200. Following the decline of the Guptas and the chaos of Huna invasions, the Pushyabhuti dynasty rises to restore order. Under Harshavardhana's leadership, the Pushyabhuti kingdom begins its absorption of the Maghari territories. Harsha permanently shifts the imperial capital to the strategic city of Kanauj, replacing Pataliputra as the northern metropolis. He projects power across the north, establishing a loose hegemony over a network of tributary rulers. The administration becomes mobile, centered around military camps known as Skandavaras. Harsha's military reliance is absolute, boasting 60,000 war elephants sustained by his feudatories. To sustain the state, Harsha pioneers assigning land grants to officials and priests in lieu of cash salaries. Revenue is divided strictly, one part for the king, one for scholars, one for servants, and one for religion. His southern expansion is finally checked at the Narmada River by the Chalukya monarch Pulakeshin II. The river becomes the accepted border between the powers of the north and the Deccan. In the west, the Matrakas of Vallabhi maintain their own maritime domain and robust trade networks. By the end of Harsha's reign, the age of regional configuration has truly begun.
In the Deccan, the western Chalukyas of Badami establish their seat of power. The dynasty reaches its peak under Pulakeshin II, who dominates the southern landscape. A long-running conflict erupts with the Pallavas of Kanchi over this fertile territory. The rivalry is bitter. The Pallavas occupy the Chalukya capital for 13 long years. Retaliation comes later, as Vikramaditya II defeats the Pallavas and marks his triumph in their own capital. This era serves as an architectural laboratory, birthing the unique Vesara style. The early phase is defined by magnificent cave temples carved into the local reddish-golden sandstone. Innovation follows, seen in structural works like the Maguti Jain and the Durga Temple at Aihole. The style matures at Patadakal, where the Dravida and Nagara styles stand side by side. While building temples, the Chalukyas also defend the western Deccan against early Arab incursions. Internal shifts eventually bring the dynasty down as the Rashtrakutas rise to power. A new imperial house emerges, ready to contest the fate of the entire subcontinent. The 8th century ignites the tripartite struggle for northern dominance. From Bengal and Bihar, the Pallas push westward, claiming the title Lord of Northern India. From Malwa, the Gujara Pratiharas strike at the heart of the Ganga-Yamuna Doab. Vatsaraja defeats the Palla forces, but his victory is short-lived. Dhruva Dharavarsha sweeps into the north, driving the Pratiharas back into the desert. Domestic conflicts with the eastern Chalukyas force Dhruva home, leaving the north open once more. The Pallas reclaim the city, installing their own vassal to ensure dominance. The Pratiharas return with a vengeance under Nagabhata II, crushing the Palla army. In 816 CE, Kanauj finally becomes the permanent seat of the Pratihara kings. While the Pratiharas win, the long war drains the resources of all three great houses. Internal fragmentation and rebellions by vassals begin to weaken the Pratihara hold. The struggle ends not in total victory, but in the eventual collapse of all three contenders. Deep changes in society are driven by the rapid expansion of land grants, known as agraharas. The state alienates its rights, losing direct control to religious and secular intermediaries. Some scholars argue this led to a decline in long-distance trade and a scarcity of gold coins. This monetary anemia allegedly forced a return to self-sufficient, closed village economies. High taxation and forced labor, Vishti, create social tensions, leading to rebellions like that of the Kaivartas. Social mobility is restricted as tribal groups are absorbed into the rigid Brahmanical hierarchy. However, others argue that agrarian expansion actually integrated tribal zones and created new surpluses. Localized agricultural surpluses of cotton, indigo, and grain drive the growth of trade towns. While gold is rare, low-denomination currencies like cowries keep the local economy vibrant. The social restructuring leads to the rise of new administrative castes like the Kayasthas. The status of Shudras shifts slightly as they become essential sharecroppers in the expanding agricultural frontier. The economy is not decaying, but reorganizing and establishing deeper regional roots.
In the south, the Chola Empire constructs a state that balances monarchy with local autonomy. The administration is hierarchical, yet local sub-districts, nadus, enjoy significant self-governance. At the grassroots, the Common Assembly, or Ur, manages the affairs of standard peasant villages. The Sabha, Brahmin Assembly, uses the Kudaivolai system to elect representatives for specialized committees. These committees manage local taxes, resolve disputes, and maintain vital agricultural infrastructure. The Cholas transform the Bay of Bengal into a controlled commercial zone with their naval power. Specialized vessels allow for both coastal trade and long-distance naval campaigns. In 1025 CE, Rajendra I launches a major expedition against the Srivijaya Empire in Southeast Asia. The campaign is aimed at ending Srivijaya's monopoly over the Malacca and Sunda Straits. Rajendra's forces capture major trade centers, securing direct trade routes to China. Close relationships with powerful merchant guilds fund the empire's massive military machine. The Cholas establish themselves as the dominant maritime power of the Indian Ocean.
Popular devotional Hinduism begins to challenge classical rituals and monastic sects. The Alvars, devoted to Vishnu, popularized the concept of complete surrender to God's grace. Their hymns are gathered into the Tamil Veda, making salvation accessible to everyone. The Nayanars, 63 Shiva saints, conceptualize Shiva as both an ascetic and a cosmic warrior. Their songs transform minor shrines into sacred geography, integrating local folk deities into the pantheon. Adi Shankaracharya seeks to reconcile this devotion with philosophy through Advaita Vedanta. He teaches that the material world is Maya, illusion, and that the soul is identical to Brahman. Shankara institutionalizes his philosophy by establishing 4 great monasteries at the edges of the subcontinent. Later, Ramanuja opposes the theory of illusion, teaching that souls are real yet dependent on God. Buddhism declines as royal patronage shifts to Hindu temples and practices become less distinct. Jainism remains resilient by integrating into the lives of wealthy mercantile communities in Gujarat and Rajasthan. As Sanskrit becomes a courtly language, regional vernaculars emerge as the new voices of the people.
By the 11th century, the subcontinent faces a militarized threat from powerful Turkic empires. Sultan Mahmud of Ghazni conducts 17 military raids, primarily to fund his Central Asian empire. Mahmud first targets the Hindu Shahi kingdom, annexing Lahore and extending his reach to the Jhelum. In 1024 CE, Mahmud's most famous raid strikes the wealthy temple of Somanath in Gujarat. His campaigns drain India's wealth, but do not establish permanent rule beyond the Punjab. In the late 12th century, Muhammad Ghori seeks to establish a permanent empire rather than just loot. His early advance is checked in 1178 CE by a major defeat at the hands of the Gujarat Rajputs. Ghori redirects his efforts to the Punjab, bringing him into conflict with Prithviraj Chauhan. On 14 January 1191, the two forces clash at Tarain. The Ghorid forces are routed. Ghori is severely wounded in a personal duel, but is saved by a young horseman. The victory at Tarain gives the Rajputs a brief moment of triumph, but the threat is not gone. Humiliated, Ghori prepares for a return, determined to dismantle the Rajput alliances.
Ghori returns in 1192 CE with a disciplined force and a different strategy. He employs the feigned retreat, drawing the Rajput forces into a pursuit that breaks their lines. The mobile Turkish cavalry, skilled in mounted archery, proves devastating against the traditional Rajput formations. The defeat at the Second Battle of Tarain marks the collapse of Rajput dominance in the northern plains. He continues eastward, bringing the fertile Ganga-Yamuna Doab under Ghorid control. Ghori returns to Ghazni, leaving his trusted slave general Aibak to consolidate his Indian conquests. Meanwhile, Bakhtiar Khalji launches a rapid offensive into Bihar and Bengal. The destruction of these monastic universities ends major organized Buddhist patronage in the east. By 1204 CE, Bengal and Bihar are brought under Ghorid authority. In March 1206, Ghori is assassinated, causing his empire to fragment among his generals. Aibak founds the slave, Mamluk dynasty, marking the formal start of the Delhi Sultanate. The early medieval transition concludes, leaving a pluralistic and regionally vibrant landscape for the future.